Hi, my name is Rick Lobb. Welcome to another episode of Real Talk. Today with me are my two partners, Jeff Bauer and Kathy Dawson. Before we get into today's meat and potatoes, it's going to be a quick little podcast on the upcoming changes in the Real Estate and Business Brokers Act, which is now going to become the Trust in Real Estate Services Act or something like that. And before we get into that, I just want to put out that Jeff, Kathy, and I would like to do a podcast where we answer your questions. So if you have questions for us about any aspect of real estate, please feel free. We will be posting this on our social media feeds, and please reach out to us through our social media feeds asking your questions that we will be happy to answer on a future episode of Real Talk. But for now, let's get into a small discussion about the new upcoming legislation and how the Real Estate and Business Brokers Act is going to change.
Which has been kind of a question that we've been getting out there in the public because
there's been lots of media attention.
There's lots of media attention, especially because there's a big election coming up and that sort of thing. So it can be political sometimes with these sort of legislative changes, but at the end of the day, there's the legislation under which we operated was drafted in 2002, yep. And it has ethical, consumer protection, and just logistical things that are considered in it. And a lot has changed in the last 20 years in real estate, from supply issues to how business is done with electronic signatures and different stuff like that. So yeah. The main question that kept coming up after all the media coverage and what have you of the TRESA legislation was in regards to the bidding process and, open bidding, blind bidding, bidding wars. Everyone's got different names for it, multiple offers, offer dates, things like that. So everyone's very curious and aware of how it kind of works these days, but there is something that's, I guess, upon first impression is like this new thing where open bidding is going to be allowed.
And we should qualify that because the reality is the open bid process is very much similar to a real estate auction. And real estate auctions have been happening for years and years. And I recognize that the market and the registration bodies that govern our market need, because of the heat of the market, they need to act. And this is one of the ways that they could bring that open bid to the forefront as a solution to try and make it a little more fair to be in a multiple offer situation with multiple competitors.
So they're talking about more transparency with the offer process is what they're asking for.
That's right, and we could have been doing that all along if all parties, seller and all buyers, are all in agreement to have an open bid. We've been able to do that the whole time.
So let's just rewind open bid because our viewers might not understand the difference between open bid, closed bid, etc. So open bid would be, certain details of the offers, if there's multiple bids that come in on a place, are open. So you'd be able to see, the highest offer amongst those that are offering is $750,000 and has no conditions in the X closing date. And then the next person would be able to say, I'll go 775 then. And it more or less turns into an auction. Whereas currently, what's available to the same three bidders, let's say, on a property is just the number of bids that you're competing with. So you would be told, there's three bids of which you are one, submit your best offer and hope that the seller picks yours.
That's right, and there are strategies that you can adopt in order to try and make your, when, for example, if you're competing against two other offers, your strategy is going to be a little different than if you're competing against 11 other offers. So you'll adopt a strategy with your realtor based on the number of competing offers that you're up against. But if in an open bid process, or what it would probably look like, would be a listing realtor sitting at a table, maybe with the sellers or with the seller on the phone, and then a group of realtors who have competing buyers who are all on the phone with their buyer, and it would essentially be a discussion amongst the realtors that would inevitably whittle down to the highest bidder or the most attractive offer.
And in the closed bidding process, you don't know how much the other buyer has offered.
Correct.
Any terms or conditions in the other offers. You just know the number of offers.
Just know how many you're competing against.
And the funny thing about it, it's always been available as an option, as you said, Rick, that just was never really explored, because to get all of those parties to agree to do the open bid, there's privacy concerns, obviously, which would need to be addressed. But, the seller's going to have a strategy and the buyer's going to have a strategy with the closed bid. With the open bid, there was a piece that I read actually that said that the opposite might end up actually being true, in terms of a seller saying, no, we want open bids versus closed bids, that auction style sales overall, I think it was comparing it to the art industry. In open style auction sales, the bids end up getting higher.
That is a risk.
Who knows what the actual effect would be, but that piece argued that it could actually drive the prices even higher, that'd be pretty bad, because that's the opposite effect of what they're looking for.
Earlier in my real estate career, we did, and Kathy may remember this as well, but the open bid sort of auction style process was typically adopted with farms. So there was a number of transactions that happened earlier on when farm sales or farms in general, the price was, let's say the demand was ramping up for farms, and somebody wanted to sell off a family farm. They would get a farm auctioneer, similar to my Uncle Richard, like my Uncle Richard had done a few of those, and it would be an open auction at this property for the property. So yeah, it's, would that service to de-escalate the growth that we've been seeing price-wise? I agree that it might actually have the adverse effect.
It could, or it may or it may not. It's hard to say, but
depends on who's buying what property at that time.
It's an option that's being I think just marketed as part of this new legislation change that has always been an option. But there's additional things in the new legislation as well that aren't as interesting, and we haven't had as many people. Well, they're really interesting, actually, super interesting.
Fascinating.
Definitely keep watching.
Yes.
Don't shut it off right now.
Fascinating.
Because this part you're gonna love.
But before we do, just to finish up with the bid thing, the open bidding, would it make it more transparent? Obviously, it would. Would it increase the level of comfort that a buyer would have because they know what the other offers are? It probably would. But to answer the concern that you had, would it suppress the escalation of price growth? I don't know if that would necessarily be the case.
In small town real estate, can it be private? Can the privacy concerns be addressed? Because, when you're in a city with millions of people and hundreds and hundreds of realtors, it's a lot different than, we know Jeff's bidding and we know that he's working with Joe Black and Joe's looking in this, so that's who we're bidding against. And Rick's representing
it does bring
Suzanne,
up privacy issues.
And so because everybody knows everyone's business. In a closed bid, no one knows. Yeah. In an open bid, I fear that in small town real estate, it would open up more privacy than what you're actually planning on opening up.
True. So sorry to interject that.
Now, I'm glad you did.
The
that was
exciting,
very good stuff.
The exciting other changes.
Other changes. So, big one that I'm actually excited about is the fact that the powers that be, RECO, Ontario Real Estate Council of Ontario, that's our governing body, and they're the ones that go like that if you've been bad.
Do they ever?
they should more, and they're going to be able to more, and they're going to be able to issue larger fines, immediate suspensions, and revoking of licenses. So they're going to have more power. Which
So we have more discipline.
More discipline. The bad actors will be brought to justice by the real estate police faster, and it will make sure, because as in any industry, and you see them on the news, there's bad apples in every industry.
Sure.
And we want ours to be a clean one, especially when we're dealing with people's largest assets and huge purchases and what have you. So that's going to be a really good change to the legislation as well.
Yep, I agree.
What else in there did we?
There was some
the other
increased
thing-
ethics.
Yeah, ethical standards.
And there was some specialist designations that we are able to have.
Currently, in real estate now, a buyer or a seller gets to choose whether or not they want to be a client or a customer. That is actually going to change, so that no longer will there be a customer service arrangement. It'll be either you're a client and you're represented by that realtor, or you're self-represented if you are not wanting representation through the realtor.
That's less confusing for the
It is less
consumer.
It's far less confusing, because you get people that have worked with other realtors and then are now working with you, that you start explaining that stuff.
Yeah,
and they've never understood it before. It's never, or like it's just information that goes out the window. So overall, the Trust in Real Estate Services Act is going to hopefully have its desired effect of cleaning up our industry, updating what is now 20-year-old legislation to be in turn with today's market, and I guess time will tell whether it has any effect on the overall market swings up or down, and yeah. But anyways, are we ready to wrap up? We'll give everyone a final reminder to get your questions. If you made it to this point, you probably have tons of questions for us. So make sure that you follow our social media, submit your questions that you'd like to see addressed, suggest a guest, give us some questions that you'd like us to answer. We do this for you. Hopefully it's informative and entertaining, and all, you're just sharing and doing all the things that you do with social media posts. But yeah, thanks for watching. We're Homefield Group at Royal LePage Heartland, and enjoy the rest of your day.